Hey, it's your girl, Carmel Jean-Francois, owner and founder of CFIT Coaching. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, if this looks familiar, we are in my kitchen. Yes, we are. I'm trying to play with backgrounds. So you guys all have to be patient with me as I settle in to a new space. I'm not going to explain all that right now, but we are live and we're going to get to it. I have a very special guest with me today, and he's special because he is, how do I call it? He's a fellow coach. I'm learning lots of things with him, and so it's a pleasure to bring him on. Now, this gentleman that I'm bringing on will be speaking to the men, so I'm usually here, I'm speaking to the girls, I'm speaking to the women. So today we have Anthony here. He goes by the name of Anthony Carter, and what he did was he eliminated hypertension from his life. How did he do it? Through the plants, through the power of the plants. So I'm going to bring him up without further ado, and he'll be able to tell you a little bit better. He'll be able to definitely tell you better than me what he's all about, and how he came into this and how he was able to eliminate hypertension from his life. Anthony,
Hi, how are
thanks for
you?
joining me.
No problem. Glad to be here. That was a wonderful, wonderful introduction. And I'm checking out your kitchen. It looks great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I had to kind of like put a few things away, make sure that it was ready for, production. But
Okay.
anyway, Anthony, um, so my viewers have seen my kitchen before, but they haven't seen you. So I'm sure they just want to get on with it and say, who is this guy? And why is Carmel bringing him onto her channel? So Anthony, let us know a little bit about you and what you've been able to do with the power of the plants. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Anthony Carter. I am 55 years old. And I started with plants and trying to eat healthy, really, I would say about 3 years ago, maybe a little more than 3 years ago. And I started because I went to the doctor. I was 52 years old at the time. It was about 2 weeks before my birthday. And I was told you have high blood pressure, right? They never used the word high blood pressure. They never said the word hypertension. But the doctor got a little freaked out when she saw the
Mm.
numbers. And they actually took my blood pressure 4 times because they couldn't figure out how it was so high and nothing had happened.
Do you
For
remember what
example,
those numbers were, Anthony?
it was like I want to say it was in 140, 150 range. It was high. It was
Okay.
high. And I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
constantly dizzy and
Oh,
constantly not feeling well and didn't know what it was. And just kind of like I
may
attributed
I
to, oh, I'm getting
interject?
old and stressed. Yes.
You know what? So a lot of people take symptoms and feel like it's
Mhm,
supposed to feel like that because of age or because of stress or
mhm,
because of, and they don't know that it's no, this is not normal. You're not supposed to be feeling like this. My question to
right.
you was, did you end up in the doctor's office because you were feeling these symptoms, or was this like an annual checkup or something?
I ended up in the doctor's office because I was feeling those symptoms.
Okay.
Um, I was always kind of feeling kind of sick, like not
Okay.
feeling good in my own body. And one
Okay.
day, I went to the doctor. I don't even remember. I think it had just gotten to the point where I said, "Well, I need to figure out what's going on," because I was constantly dizzy. I wasn't sleeping through the night. It was all these things that I had, in many ways, normalized. Oh, this is
Yeah.
just the way that it is. And the people around me were, of course, encouraged that behavior. This is just the way that it is. You're in your 50s. You're black. You're a man. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, no, I don't think I should feel like this like all the
Mm.
time. So I ended
Mm-hmm.
up going to the doctor. They put me immediately. She pulled out the pad, right, and started writing a prescription.
Yeah.
Never asked me about my
Okay.
ecosystem, never asked me about my relationship, never asked me about my job. It says, okay, we're just gonna put you on this. And I thought, well, this is like kind of rude. This is weird. Like you didn't ask me anything, you just grabbed the pad, right?
Mm.
And the only thing she said to me, I said, well, I really don't want to do that. That's for old people. What can I do not to be put on medication?
Yeah.
And her words to me were, unless you're gonna lose 20 pounds in a week or two, nothing. So I'm like, ooh, okay. So I took the day I got that prescription, one of my big goals in life became how fast, how
Sorry.
fast can I get off of these pills? That was
Right.
my goal. The day I started, I was like, okay, the countdown has started. The clock
Right.
is ticking. How quickly can I get off of these? And I made a concerted effort, and that was in February, March of 2020. And it took me, I would say, about 2 years to get off of them. And
Okay.
there were some things I had to move out of my life. There were some things I had
Mhm.
to stop eating, some things I had to start eating. So it took, I can be a little hard headed and stubborn sometimes. I was like, I'm going to do it my way. But this isn't working. So it took me a little while to get off of it. But now it's been a little over a year and I haven't been on 'em.
Wow. So, okay, so when you said it took you 2 years, and and at any during that time, did you seek any type of professional help or coaching, or you just kind of like, let me just wean myself off of the things that might be causing this?
I The first thing I did, I did an experiment. I did a 30-day experiment, and I wanted to try experiment to see whether or not I would feel better if I took certain things out of my diet
Mhm.
because I knew I was eating way too much fried food, way too much meat, way too much dairy. The chickens and the hot wings, the hot wings and the cheese and all that. I was like, okay, this probably isn't good. Like, so let's see
Mhm.
what we feel like if we eliminate that for 30 days. That was kind of my experiment. I tried it for 30 days and I felt really great. And I said, and I
Okay.
kept going.
So was that the first 30 days since your diagnosis that you felt
Yes,
great during
yes,
that? It was?
yes. And it was
Okay.
in
So
diagnosed. So it took about 6 months before I did this experiment.
okay, okay, okay. And so I'm wondering, so upon getting that diagnosis, you walk out of the office, d the doctor's office. Did you know that I know exactly what's causing this? I know exactly why I feel like this. I know exactly why I just got that diagnosis.
I
Or did it take some research for you to understand what was happening in your life that was contributing to that?
I think I don't know if it was either one of those things. I think it was me making the decision that there was a problem that I could probably fix. That
Mm,
I didn't need anybody to write a prescription for me. I didn't need anybody to quote unquote come and save me. It's probably something I'm doing or not doing.
okay.
And so I said, well, if it's something I'm doing or not doing, that means I have control over. That means I can do something about it.
Right,
So then I
right,
started
right.
thinking, what can I do? What can I do like fundamentally? What can I do on a very basic, bare bones level without waiting for somebody to come and give me the cure or
So
give
what
me a
did you start doing, Anthony?
I the first thing I started doing it was interesting. When I got the diagnosis, I think COVID hit a week or two later.
Okay.
And I was like,
Yeah,
oh well, this is
that makes sense. That's around the time.
I was like, this is the apocalypse. We all going down anyway. This is the end of the world. Who cares?
That's what it felt like.
I was like, yes. I was like, bring on the carne asada fries, all the
Wow, okay, alright.
yeah. So then, because initially it was supposed to be, they told us COVID was going to be here for a couple of weeks, right? Then a couple of weeks became a month, and it became 2 months, and it became three. And then I realized I was like, okay, well, this isn't the end of the world.
Right.
And if I want to stick around, what do I need to do?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
then I started. My mom has been at the time. She was a vegetarian and a
Okay.
vegan. So I listened to some of the stuff that she said. I did some reading, did a little bit of research, and I said, well, I've tried everything else, and I'm
Mm,
not interested in being. I just wasn't interested in popping pills and being on medication for life because I know
right,
too
right,
many
right.
people my age and 20 years younger who are on medication, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
Right, okay.
There's gotta be a different way to do this. So then that's when I did the experiment. I was like, okay, well, the end of the world didn't come, and I'm gonna be here
Mhm.
for a while. So I might as well, the people depending on me, I'm depending on me. What can I do?
Yeah,
So I did the
yeah,
experiment and I felt really great. And then I kept going
okay,
and I just
okay.
kind of kept going.
So the experiment was the 30 days, and after the 30
Yes.
days, you felt great, and you said, "Let me just keep doing this."
Keep
And so
going.
you told us what you eliminated. Did you add anything in? Eh,
Oh yeah.
did anything else change?
I added a ton of fresh vegetables
Okay.
because when I first started the journey, when I did my experiment, for about the first year and a half, I was doing a lot of um, vegan junk food. So I was
Okay.
eating things that I was eating things that were still very processed, still had a lot of
Yes.
sugar, salt, and oil in them. I was eating
Mm.
things that were, is just like chicken. And it's like, well, no, if we're not eating chicken, then let's not eat chicken. But I was still in that mode, trying to like, okay, well, this is not the real thing. And then it took until I got into farm to table, and it was a 12-week commitment. No oil, no salt, no sugar, and I cut everything. I cut all the stuff out, and then my health jumped again, and I was like, "Oh my
Okay,
god! Like,
so
what have I been doing the last year and a half?"
because you started learning a different way to do this, right? And you
Mhm.
learned the difference between being just a vegan and what a
Right.
whole food plant-based vegan was.
Yes.
So you just mentioned farm to table, and I thank you for mentioning farm to table. My listeners don't know anything about that. I don't think so anyway. I don't want to assume, but can you explain to us very briefly what farm to table is?
Well, Farm to Table is a wonderful, wonderful program, and it's founded by the wonderful Lisa A. Smith, and it is for primarily for African Americans who are wanting to commit to a whole food plant-based diet to eliminate, to prevent um, diseases that really are preventable, based on how you eat, right? And the
Lifestyle
system that you have.
diseases.
Lifestyle, that's the word I'm looking for, lifestyle diseases. So it was
Mhm.
a program that she runs. It is 12 weeks. I did it from January of 2022 until March, beginning of April. So it's 12 weeks. You have an accountability partner. You have to drink water every day. You have to log what you're eating. So none
Mm.
of this nonsense about, oh, I slipped up and had Twinkies, because you have to share this with the group. And you
Yes.
don't want to be the one that ate the Twinkies, right?
Right.
So you have to drink water. We have an accountability partner. My accountability partner and I, we talked every day. We
Okay.
set intentions in the morning via text. We would send each
I love
other,
it. I
encouragement
love it.
every day. We did that for weeks. This is my intention for today. This is what I'm struggling with. The people on my job have lost their marbles, and I'm trying to figure out, like, when you I found that when I got really, really, really strict with the food, and my mind started working very differently. It started working more quickly. So
Oh, okay.
there were things that I was willing to settle for that I just, when you get that junk out of your system, your mind, you're like, why am I doing this? So I started looking at every aspect of my life,
Yeah.
and basically started handing out pink slips left and right. Like, you gotta go, you gotta go.
You got
This is not
we
working.
breaking up. This
Let's
relationship is
go.
over.
It's over. Right?
Yes, Anthony, I went through that on more of a physical
Mhm.
level than the mind, I feel, or maybe it just all happened together and I didn't realize
Mhm.
it. But I realized that when I ate certain things, I was just like, it just didn't sit well with me. It was just extra heavy. So it was an incentive for me to just keep eating my plants. So I love that. I love that. Okay, so you did farm to table for 12 weeks. You had an accountability partner. People are looking after you. You're getting in touch with everybody. But like, okay, so 12 weeks is done, and this is day one after 12 weeks. How are you? Did you feel anxious that can I do this by myself?
No,
Did
I
you
felt like I had been given the keys to the kingdom. It's like somebody gives you a lottery ticket and
yes.
you cash it in. And you're like, okay, there's certain things I'm no longer going to have to concern myself with.
Right,
Like,
right.
there's even certain conversations I'm not even going to like concern myself with anymore.
Yeah.
It's like when I made the decision to cut out certain things to eat other things, I don't have to do this whole bargain thing in my head and like
Mm,
rationalize it. Oh, it's kind of like, well, I don't eat that, right? And I know what it
mhm.
feels like when I was eating that. So I was ready to go after the 12 weeks. I was ready to go. I was like, what I felt like is, and what I felt in my gut, I felt as if, okay, I did this. I made this happen. I made this life change. What else can I do? Where else, what other dreams have I buried or like just said, this is just the way that it is? What else can I unearth? What else can I do that maybe I've been putting off for a long time? And, I started doing a whole bunch of things that I wanted to do. I started making movies. I had a podcast. I sold my house in California. I moved clear across the country, 3,100 miles away. I moved to Connecticut. Started a brand new job. I just kept going.
And this was because you felt like you had a new lease on life, right? You've been given time,
I,
you've been given energy and health and vitality.
I felt like I had a new lease on life in a physical sense because I
Yeah.
wasn't feeling bad all the time. So
Yes,
that was
yes, yes,
one
yes.
thing. And it was all it kind of coalesced. It all kind of came together at the same time. I felt better physically. And then, like I said, my mind was so sharp and I was able to move through things. It's like, okay, what do I want to do? And so then my mind was sharp or sharper. I was clear in communication. I was clear about what I was willing to do, what I was not willing to do. I was having a whole lot of uncomfortable conversations with people like, nope, not doing that. I had one a
Mm.
day at work with somebody and I was like, is there a problem? Like, so you get to the point where I feel highly, highly invincible because I did something that was really good for me and it worked.
And it worked.
And
And
it goes against everything else that I think the culture tells you, like the
right,
doctors, the other black men that I know, everybody. So it's like me against this army, this legion of people telling me,
right,
"Oh, it's just the way it is. Just deal with it." I'm like,
right.
I'm the lone wolf. I'm the one, the crazy one. It's like, no, we're not going to do it that way.
Anthony,
Absolutely not.
right. And I get what you mean because I know that when I started getting healthier and every time I challenged myself to something like major like this, like me becoming plant-based and just getting this new sense of health and like invincibility, just like you
Mhm.
mentioned. What was interesting was I felt like it was just so big, I lost my train of thought. But I felt like I just did something amazing for me that most
Mhm.
people have that power to do. That's what I wanted to
Mhm.
say. Everybody has the power to do that. Just change the way you eat, change the way you think, really monitor the your relationships around you, and you will change your life and you will get this new vitality.
Mhm.
And I felt like, wow, I did this. And it
Right.
was because of my own will. The doctors never suggested that I do that. Nobody
Mhm.
around me ever said, Carmel, this is what you
Right.
nobody. I was just like, let me see what happens. Just like like, let me see what happens.
Mhm.
So I love everything that you said. So now 12 weeks is over. You've got this new lease on life. Everything's clear. You're doing things that you put on the back burner simply because you feel so good and your brain is working so well. So now what people are asking you what's happening, what happened to you, or are you seeing a need for the men in your community? Is this why you became a
Yeah,
coach
both.
yourself?
Both.
Talk to me
I
about that.
think, I think it's both. I think people, many times I find that myself and other people, we do what it is that we do, right? And there's not a whole lot of thought about, oh, how is this going to affect these people over here? How is this going to affect the community at large? How is it going to affect my family? You do
Mhm,
what it is, you make the decision to save your own life, right?
mhm,
And you make that decision, but it has these really, really far reaching effects. So
mhm.
what I find is that, I did it and then people are asking me, well, what did you do? Or how come you're not? Because most people, I would say outside of the people I know in Farm to Table, the people that other coaches that I know, everybody else is shocked that I'm not on medication. So that always gets the conversation started, right? Then it's a conversation starter. But then when I tell people what I did or what I'm committed to doing, or when I mention the life philosophies I had to change, because I'm buying
Yeah,
into somebody else's philosophy about how she do things.
right.
When you start talking about that, people are like, oh no, 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 Then they want to talk about moderation. They want to talk about, oh, I don't eat that much meat. Then they want to talk about, well, I don't know if there's a whole it's not backpedaling, right? Because it's like,
Yes.
oh, I got to do something. Yes,
Yeah.
it is
Uh,
on you. You got to take some action. You
you
got to
yeah,
you
you
got to
do.
unlearn some things. You got to do some things that are different. And
So
the
if
doctors aren't going to tell you here, do this, because that means you know they can't write the
well,
prescription.
I have this theory that doctors are never going to tell you what to eat because they're not educated on it for the most part. There are a few that are, but
Mhm.
they're few, and most of them don't know nutrition. So they can't
Right.
prescribe leaves. They can't prescribe the plants,
Mhm.
or what we can do dietarily that would help improve our situation. And even if they did know, they can't prescribe that, because if you go home and you don't do that, and you can and you become ill, there's a lawsuit, right? So they have to protect
Right.
themselves in that aspect as well. So that's my theory. I have not spoken to a doctor about that. This is how my mind is working, right? But you
I
mentioned that
have a
people
really
are
good.
shocked. You
Mhm.
mentioned that people are shocked that you're not on medication, and you're
Mhm.
talking about, people like, what, moderation. And I
Mhm.
feel like that conversation is so prevalent, because that's what media teaches us.
Mhm.
Like, you can still eat this. You'll even go to websites that say, what are the best foods to eat for diabetes, which is, my specialty is sugar. And you'll see on there like things like, you can still take stevia, and things like
Mhm.
that, where really, if you're dealing with diabetes, you want to cut sugar out altogether. But that's a completely different conversation. That moderation thing is what people it really kind of try to stick to, because they can still have what they
Mhm.
like, and still feel like they're doing
Well,
something, but you
right.
really can't.
And I think, it's a way, because we've all done it. I've done it. We give ourselves an out, a loophole, just in case
Hmm.
this does. It's the same reason that people, you know, like they keep alcohol in the house, right? Or you keep, when I was eating a lot of junk, I would
Hmm.
keep that in the house, not so I would eat it every day, but just in case,
Just in
just in
case.
case the apocalypse returns, just in case I get stressed. Yeah, that was kind of like the just in case. It was almost like the break the glass, like people have the cigarette.
Mm.
And I think when people start talking about moderation, it's a way of, it's a way of saying, well, it's a just in case, it's a loophole, right?
Yeah.
And and I think a lot of times, we have been taught, once again, like I said, I think it goes back to whose philosophy are you buying into? Like who sold you on this?
So what did you
It's like
have
when
to
people ask me, yes.
so based on that, you were
Mhm,
buying into another philosophy,
mhm,
especially when the pandemic hit. And then you changed your mind, especially since especially since you came across farm to table. So what
mhm.
did you have to unlearn, Anthony? What philosophy did you now subscribe to? What was the mindset shift? What did you have to unlearn?
Okay, I had to unlearn, um, just on a basic level, unlearn um, some of the cooking methods that I had been taught, that I had taught
Okay.
myself, right? Like that was one of the first things that I had to change because I didn't start cooking and learning how to cook until I was 31. I just bought a bunch of cookbooks and worked through all of them, right? So I could make
Mhm.
Italian stuff from scratch and Chinese. So I was doing all these things, right? So then I had to unlearn, okay, no, if you're gonna, there are ways to make vegetables very tasty. Like I don't use oil in vegetables, right? I go through so much veggie broth in this house. It's kind of like I'm gonna buy some stock in a company because whenever I go to the market, whenever my husband is out, he'll call and say, "I'm somebody market." He say, "Yeah, I know. I'm gonna pick up 3 boxes. You got it, right?" So I had to learn. Now that's my just in case. I keep that in the house, like that.
Okay.
That's not replace the chips and that kind of stuff. So for me, I had to unlearn some cooking methods. I had to unlearn, the whole moderation thing. I had to
Mhm.
unlearn, I really had to unlearn listening to people who were living and managing things I didn't want to live and manage. I didn't want
Okay.
to not unlearn listening to people who were living with things I didn't want to live with and managing
Okay.
things I was not interested in managing.
Okay.
Because, like I said, when you start talking about the pills and those kind of stuff, they're managing that issue. They're managing that disease.
You're
It's not
managing it.
eliminating. And
Can
that's
I share with
I'm always
you?
asking people, why are we managing things we don't want? Like people, oh, you should manage your stress. Why? You don't want like Why are we
Right.
managing things we don't want?
Right. Can we just eliminate it just like you've
Yeah.
eliminated your hypertension? I want to share something with you. My mother, as long as I've known my mother, she was on medication for hypertension, as long as it was the norm. And
Mhm.
so were her sisters. She had two sisters. They were all very, very close. And they would talk all the time. And the conversation used to be, girl, I'm out of my medication. Well, come on over. I got some. That was the conversation, Anthony. It's funny, but it's sad
Yeah,
and it's
yeah, yeah.
embedded, right? But Anthony, to your point, they were managing it. They were
Right.
managing it. They tried not to get themselves too upset. They tried not to cook with so much
Mhm.
salt, but they didn't know that there was a way to eradicate it from their lives. They
Right.
didn't know there was a way to eliminate it. They knew that as long as they kept up with their doctor's appointment, the doctor would give them the drugs that they needed to give them to manage it. You
Mhm.
can go on living your life the way you live in.
Mhm.
Just take this medication and it'll never get too high, right?
Right.
Where you have to be hospitalized. But it was something that let's just keep watching, let's just keep managing. So to your point, there's so
Mhm.
many people out there that is so complacent with managing. But
Right.
Anthony, there's so many people out there that don't even know there's another option. And that's the people we're trying to reach. You work with men over 40, you work with men from 40 to 60, that is your age group.
Mhm.
And that makes sense. I work with women over 40. That is also my age group. And that makes sense. I'm trying to reach all the people out there, all the women out there who
Mhm.
are dealing with high blood sugar, pre-diabetic diabetes, to let them know there's other options, right? Besides what the doctors are telling you. And just because you get diagnosed doesn't mean it's a life sentence.
Right.
And so that's what, and that's why I think what we do is so powerful because we want to
Mhm.
spread the news. We've been able to achieve something. We've just learned something. And now it's like, did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? So tell me about that journey for you, about you telling, like, just like spreading the word and you just want
Well,
people
yeah.
to know.
Well, spreading the word. I mean, I'm a writer, so I've written blog posts on it. I've done a movie about it, my
Mhm.
whole journey. The movie allowed me to meet a ton of young Black vegans and plant-based people all over the globe. The movie is an independent film. It's now in film festivals. I just won an award yesterday for the Swedish Film Festival. So it is doing what I wanted to do. So my journey has been not only my personal journey, things that I've learned, but I've written about them. I've put them in. I've documented them. Like I've had conversations and interviews. I put them into a film format because I think my thinking was I want to share this information, help people shift their life philosophies, and I'm going to use absolutely every medium that I can.
I love
You don't
it.
want to read? Watch this movie. We made the movie. My co-producer, my co-director, and we sat down, and I said, how can we tell a really compelling story in less than 20 minutes? Because if this is about people changing their philosophies, people my father's age are not going to sit down for 2.5 hours where everybody tells them everything that they eat is wrong. They're going to tune out. So I was thinking
Right.
about we need something that's short and snappy that we can take to churches, that we can take to community centers, that we can take to,
Mm.
we can have a screening in somebody's home. It's short enough that people can watch it and then have a conversation. So that's been
Yes.
a lot of my journey. So a lot of the journey has been about me meeting people, right, who are further along than I am. And I've asked them, well, how did you do that? Or what was your aha moment? Or what was the point in which a light bulb went off for you? When did you realize I need to do something different? And everybody has a story about how it started, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so that's what it's been like for me. And like I said, and trying to, or not trying to, moving towards figuring out how do I get the message to more Black men,
Hmm.
10,000 Black men,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I
Well, you
because
said it.
all the ones that I know are on medication.
Well, but you said it. The ones that you know, Anthony, are not necessarily going to be the ones who
That's
jump
it.
into what you
Yep,
do because they know you.
that's
They're like that guy, right? That dude right there. We were on medication together. What? So they're not
well,
necessarily going to be the
right.
one. But just like you said, if you're not going to reach them through your words, you're going to reach them through on screen, your other media. You have these tools. And you
Mhm,
said something, a word that I appreciate so much: conversation. This is to start the conversation, because
mhm.
dude down the block who's on hypertension medication that's not trying to listen to you, you've started the conversation. They're talking about you right now, Anthony. They're talking about you right now. You started that conversation just by doing what you're doing. You feel me?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
with that, you are doing what you need to do. You're going to reach the masses. You and I,
Mhm,
we're doing this right now. We're on YouTube. We're doing this right now, right? We are starting the conversation. We are reaching out to people, and they are now aware. We are reaching to
mhm,
people. You're reaching people I can't reach. I'm reaching people you can't reach, etc.
mhm.
We just have to do our part. So I told you
Yes.
my word. What is your favorite word before we end off and say goodnight to these good people?
I think um my favorite word, I actually got two. So
Okay.
one is, and they can you can kind of use them interchangeably. The first one is until. Like, how long are
Until.
you going to do this until this changes? How long are you going to do X, Y, and Z until we move this out of the way? So until you know, how long am I going to talk about my health journey? Until I get 10,000 Black men who are telling a similar story, right?
Yes.
Until we're gonna keep going until this changes. And
Yes.
yet is the other one. And when I say yet, it's always about when I look at what I don't know, right? A lot of times I think health coaches, people who are in there and the business of helping people, supporting people, getting people to shift their mindset, getting people to become lifelong learners, right? Like I'm always learning things. I have a new job now. Well, I've had to learn a whole bunch of things in a very short period of time.
Mm,
Things that I never used before because I was able to be successful without knowing these things.
right.
So I give myself an education. Every night I come home and work on this stuff. And I work
Mhm.
on it on the weekends. I've got certification. So I look at, okay, yeah, I'm not a master at Google Docs yet. I'm
Mhm.
not a
Mhm.
master at Google Slides yet.
Yes.
I'm not making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000 as a speaker yet, but it's coming, right?
Mm, mm,
So
yes.
if I can rock with until, we're gonna keep going, and yet, like it hasn't happened
Yes.
yet. Not yet. We're getting there.
Yes. I love that. Another one of my favorite words is perspective, because every time there's
Mm,
a life change, anytime something happens in the media, with ourselves personally, with somebody that we love, there's a different perspective that we take on,
yes.
right? And we have to be
Mhm,
open to shifting our perspectives. So until and yet, oh, Anthony, those are so powerful, very powerful. And I love the way you explained it. So we're going to end off by saying, where can folks find you? So you, like, we've been on here for about 30 minutes.
mhm.
There's some dude out there, he's maybe almost 50 years old, and he's like, shoot, I I'm on medication, and I can feel better. Let me see what this dude's about. Where is he gonna find you? What can you tell him?
I would tell him to check out the movie because the movie is short. It's 15 or 16 minutes. The movie is on YouTube. The name of the movie is called Ask the Old Guy. Ask the Old Guy by Anthony Carter. If people want to see the writings that I've done about health and my struggles with it and kind of where I was, and I have a website. You can go to anthony-carter.com. Anthony-carter.com.
And
Um,
just
I'm
so
not-
folks know, I'm gonna be putting it in the description. So you just click and find everything that he's
right,
talking about. Go ahead, Anthony.
and I'm on Twitter at Anthony L. That's my middle initial. I'm Anthony L. Carter. So Twitter, I have a website, and I have this movie, Ask the Old Guy, which is on YouTube. So we're up to 300 views. It was, it
Oh,
was, it's
congratulations.
been a slow burn. I remember there
So
was that
I was
one.
thinking, that congratulations, that's amazing. That's amazing. And yeah, and more people are gonna find it, especially when you gain traction, Anthony. And
Mhm,
those dudes down the block, your
right.
friends that are showing that, when they start watching it and then they pass it on to everybody else, don't worry. It's all gonna take hold, and everybody's gonna be watching it. And I was thinking, well, you like to record, like you're a filmmaker, and I love being in front of the camera. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Anthony, thank you for joining me this evening and
Thank
reaching
you.
out and speaking on this and how adapting a whole food, plant-based lifestyle has really uprooted you in a way you never thought that you would be. You feel great, you're
Mhm.
healthy, you're spreading the word, and you're helping other men do the same. That is amazing. I feel like we're doing God's work, right? Um,
Yes, we're
as a
transforming the
fitness,
planet.
sorry,
Transforming the planet.
that's right. So now, Anthony, one last thing. As a fitness trainer and a fitness enthusiast, as I am, how is your fitness? Like, how are you doing? What are you doing for
I
movement?
I am doing in the morning, every morning, I do 10 minutes of yoga stretches.
Okay.
I do 10 minutes of deep breathing where I'm not focused on anything but one spot on the wall. And all I'm doing is breathing down to my feet and up and out. And I'm doing, so that's the movement. That's like the physical stuff I'm doing. I used to do a lot of hot yoga when I lived in New
Okay.
York. I used to live in New York for a long time. And, but then COVID hit and so the yoga. So
Yeah.
my goal at this point, I'm going to go back to hot yoga because I
Mhm.
loved it.
Okay.
Loved it. Not the first 15 minutes and not the last 15, but that chunk in the middle.
Okay.
The first 15, I was like, why am I here? Why am I doing this again? And that last 15, I was like, don't look at the clock. Don't look over there. That first 15, but that hour in the middle, I'm fine, you know.
Okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. Well, that I feel like movement, exercise, physical fitness is a huge part in our overall health and well-being. And
Mhm.
especially with you combating hypertension, those breathing exercises are everything. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm a big proponent of knowing and understanding that our health and our wellness has so much more to do than with the broccoli that's at the end of our fork and how many squats we do. So it encompasses the breathing techniques that you're using, the yoga, right? It includes the relationships that you had mentioned before,
Mhm.
our perspectives, and no understanding that this is happening until, and there's certain things I don't know yet, and our perspective of things. So thank you for bringing that all around, sharing your story, being so transparent. And I'm looking forward to working with you, Anthony. I got to tell you.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to working with you. And when I get back to New York, we'll have to hang out because I miss living in Brooklyn and I miss living in Harlem. So
Oh, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Meanwhile, everybody, find Anthony's information in the description below. And once again, have a wonderful evening. Thanks again,
you
Anthony.
too. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye,
Bye bye.
everybody. Thanks for being here.